I will introduce Issa Rae. Issa Rae is a critically acclaimed and world-renowned actress, writer, and producer. With her own unique flair and infectious sense of humor, Issa Rae's content has garnered over 20 million views and 200,000 YouTube subscribers and counting. She won the Shorty Award for Best Web Show for her hit series, The Misadventures of Awkward Black Girl, and has written a New York Times bestseller under the same title. She has since expanded her YouTube platform to feature various content created by people of color. Issa Rae's distinctive style and glowing black girl magic has captured the hearts of millions and has caused her to receive national attention from major media outlets including the New York Times, Rolling Stone, Essence, Vibe, and others. In addition to making Glamour magazine's 35 Under 35 list, as well as Forbes 30 Under 30 list, she has earned a Golden Globe nomination for Best Actress in a TV comedy or musical for her performance in HBO's Insecure, which will air for a second season. Issa also appeared on the cover of Essence magazine's May 2015 Game Changers issue alongside Shonda Rhimes, Ava DuVernay, Debbie Allen, and Mara Brock Akil. In her work, Issa Rae has continually expressed a desire for more people of color to work in production behind the scenes in order to make a lasting impact in the television industry. At a glance, our two keynote speakers appear to come from very distinct walks of life. But a closer look reveals the work they each dedicate their lives to exemplifies the power of narrative and a commitment to drawing attention to stories often ignored by those in positions of power. Their work shows us that, in part, the sound of change comes by giving a voice to the voiceless and providing a platform for those who don't always have a seat at the table, so they may have a chance to be seen, heard, and understood. Everyone, please join me in giving a warm round of applause for the dynamic and innovative Issa Rae and welcoming Amy Goodman back to the stage.
Amazing, huh?
Come on. Your talk was
and I
amazing.
get the
Thank
honor of asking Issa Rae questions, but also with help from you, because questions have been submitted. Well, you just heard, among other things, that Issa was on the cover of Essence as a game changer. And I don't know about you, but I want to know how she became this remarkable woman that she is. Issa, we'll start off, just give us a little bit of your biography before we get to Awkward Black Girl. Tell us about your family, where you grew up, how you ended up doing these webisodes that broke through the world and touched so many people.
Well, first of all, it's an honor to just even talk to you. You know, I've been a fan, and I used to listen to you on my commute to my passionless job. Starting in 2008, 2009. So to be here talking to you is just a really full circle experience. And I grew up in LA. I was born and primarily raised in LA. Anybody from LA? I wanted to come out to YG's F Donald Trump, but I felt like that wasn't very kingly. But I grew up there. My dad felt like my family didn't have enough discipline. My brother specifically, and was like, we're moving to Senegal, where he's from. So, what? Is there a Senegalese person? Okay, girl, knock it up. And so spent some time there, just living with family in West Africa, in Senegal, and then my dad tried to start a hospital there, and the government, messed him up. They had some mini Trumps over there, and so lost all his money, and then he decided to start over in LA, and my mom, he moved our family to Maryland, so I grew up there for 5 years and lived. I went to predominantly white schools and kind of felt out of place, but at home I always felt like, I'm the only black girl here. I'm one of 2 black kids here. And by the time I moved back to Los Angeles in middle school, I went to a predominantly black high school and just didn't really fit in. And a lot of those experiences I've mined for my work now. And a lot of my work now focuses on just those feelings of being out of place and feeling uncomfortable and feeling, awkward and insecure, which happen to be 2 shows that I've done.
So you're talking to a largely college audience, so can you just touch on your college years, how you got through them?
I did go to college. I forgot about that. I went to college. I went to Stanford University, and...
Are you all Stanford graduates?
Word? Yes! Okay, girl, go Card! So yeah, that experience was just absolutely instrumental in terms of, I would say, jump-starting my career. A lot of students at Stanford were primarily focused on like human biology, engineering, political science, and that was supposed to be my field, but I just was drawn to writing and directing. And so my freshman year, I was cast by, I want to say she was a senior or she was a junior, but she threw her own hip opera. And, I was looking at some of the plays that our school threw, or put on, but they were predominantly white. And, a lot of the leads weren't played by people of color. And so here she was taking a story into her own hands, and she created this production from scratch and wrote, produced, directed it, acted in it, and cast me. In addition to some of my other friends in it, and it was just
sort of
phenomenal.
Like an early Hamilton.
Basically, yeah, she was. Shout out to her doing it before Lynn did it, and so I was very much influenced by her. And the next year she didn't put on a play, and so I was like, I have an opportunity. So I adapted Spike Lee's School Days, which really resonated with me at the time, just in terms of the themes that he presented, and being at oddly enough, a predominantly white institution. And School Days was set at a historically black college, but a lot of the themes overlap. And so I threw that, I put that on, I produced, directed, and adapted it for the stage, and continued to do that throughout my college run. And because there weren't a lot of students majoring in art or pursuing the arts at Stanford, there was a camera in the library that was always available. So I would check that library out, and on the side I would do like these short, stupid projects. I created my first web series in 2007 just because I was trying to procrastinate not writing a paper, or writing a paper, and
it was called
Dorm Diaries, and it was about what it was like to be black at Stanford. And I uploaded it to YouTube, and it caught around our own campus, and then it started to spread to other college campuses like Duke and Harvard, and Georgetown, and people were like, this is my college experience too. And for me, that was like a moment, I call it my light bulb moment, where I was like, wow, I'm writing on the side, and I'm trying to break in traditionally, as I was. I was entering contests. I entered a Sundance competition with a friend, and we ended up being rejected. And so to have this direct access to an audience that was looking at my work, when I was 21, was insane to me. That always stuck with me.
How did the university respond to your version, to you talking about your life there?
They didn't. The administration didn't really respond. It was, as like, what could they really say? about this was kind of our college experience, so it was mined from some sort of truth, but there wasn't any controversy.
And so, talk about what just exploded on the global stage, Awkward Black Girl.
Yes, so Awkward Black Girl ended up coming about, I came up with the idea when I was struggling and hungry in New York, super broke, and I was like, how can I make money fast? And I was like, well, I should sell t-shirts. And so I was just sitting in my room journaling, and I came up with the phrase, I'm awkward, period, and black. And I was like, oh, that defines me. One of those things I knew the whole time, but one of those things, I just realized, and that feels like it seems like an identity that hasn't really been explored in a lot of the television shows that I watch, a lot of the films that I've seen. And so, my first inclination was like, I'm going to put these on a t-shirt and sell these and make little animated web shorts to try to sell these. And then I was like, animation, I don't have money. And then I just gave up on the idea. There was a catch-22 situation going on. And so then in 2011, as I produced, in 2009, I produced another web series. It was a show about my brother and his rap group. It was a mockumentary of them trying to make it in the music industry in LA. And as I was building that audience, I started to take web series way more seriously in terms of releasing them every Monday at 10 a.m. I would, turn down plans to edit. My friends would be like, do you want to hang out on Taco Tuesday? And I'd be like, I have to do my job. I got to edit. And they'd be like, you don't have a job. You can go. But that for me was, I was treating my passion like a job.
But how did you do it? How did you get the actors? How did you do the whole thing?
They were like, my brother and his friends. And so they kind of had to show up. And it was good for them too, because it got them exposure. And then I would put out ads on Craigslist for actors. I didn't really know about actors access or have the money to be able to, pay people at the time. But also being in LA really helps, because there are a lot of people who are constantly trying. Like, here's my headshot, here's my resume. So that helped. And during that time of just creating content constantly and consistently, I decided to revisit doing this idea, Awkward Black Girl, that I had, and I wanted to cast a friend from DC who I'd worked with in Dorm Diaries. And when I came up with the idea in New York, it was convenient. She was like, I'll commute to DC. But when I hit her up when I was in LA, a couple of years later, I was like, hey, I have this role for you. Are you still interested in playing? And she was like, girl, I'm a lawyer. I can't do that. But good luck. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I felt like I was running out of time and was just like, you know what, I feel like I can play this part, and just put myself in it and asked my best friend, who's actually here with me today, to record it, and another friend from Stanford who was a dancer trying to transition into acting to play my love interest or non-love interest, and uploaded it, edited it, and uploaded it, and the rest is history, why I'm here.
So how long did you do that for?
How long did I do it for? I did it for 2 years. Yeah, 2.5 years.
And how did Insecure happen?
Insecure came about because of that series, I had an opportunity to, in our second season, work with Pharrell Williams. He funded our second season via his I Am Other venture. And because of that, it got a lot more attention, and Rolling Stone and New York Times reviewed our first episode. And so from there, Shonda Rhimes and Shondaland reached out to say, hey, do you have any ideas for us? And I pitched them a television show called I Hate LA Dudes, and that was entirely factual. And they were like, oh my gosh, we hate LA men too. And we talked for 2 hours about it. And in that process, I learned just about honing my voice and about speaking up, just because I was so grateful for the opportunity, but a little too eager, and wasn't able to properly navigate notes. The Shondaland was great about hand-holding, holding my hand throughout the process, just because I'd never written for television before, and they couldn't be any better in terms of leading me along the way. But in terms of navigating network notes and studio notes, I was very much a yes woman. Like, yeah, I'll make it work. Okay, that doesn't really make sense, but I'll make it work because this is my only opportunity. And so when it came time to turn in the draft, it just felt voiceless. It didn't feel like my own. And, they passed on the project, and I was devastated. And I felt like I had blown my one shot. And then a month later, HBO called and said, hey, we heard that you're free. Do you have any ideas for us? And I called my friends and had a celebration that day. We didn't even have a job, but was like, y'all, HBO called, it's on. And after pitching the show to them, they bought it in the room. And then I needed, again, I had never written a show or run a writer's room before. And so my management company and HBO, they said you should meet with other people to see if anybody would be able to run your room with you and produce the show with you. And they introduced me to Larry Wilmore. And they were like, if you like him, great. He's outstanding. And if you don't, we'll just move on. And so we met and we just clicked immediately. And I credit him with really helping to solidify my voice,
So, I mean, your path to success paved with both successes and failures, and it's so important, this part about the failure and how you parlay that into success, and you become the first African-American woman to helm an HBO series, and now it's going into its second season.
Yes. Bring y'all home with me. This is
talk about directing, writing, and playing you. I mean, when you were back here, you were saying, "Oh, it's the writing that I love."
I do. I love the writing the most, and I have not taken on the directing, at least for Insecure directing. The directing is primarily done by the amazing Melina Matsukis, but she's outstanding, and she knows Beyonce, guys. Come on. But it can be overwhelming at times just because, I'm responsible for, if the show isn't successful, if people don't like it, it's only on me. And that's where it gets overwhelming. I can sink my own ship. And so there's definitely a lot of pressure to maintain the vision moving forward. But at the same time, I understand that I'm extremely blessed and so excited to be able to just have this opportunity to create with people I love and respect and admire. And for me, it's been opening so many doors for people around me and people who I've met along the way, people I've worked with since Awkward Black Girl, since I did my other show, Fly Guys, and I just see it as a ticket to continue to produce with other creators of color, which is what we're doing currently. And I have an opportunity with HBO, currently with a first look deal where we're producing. They've basically given me access to produce content in the same way that I do on my YouTube channel, but for them. And so we're currently developing a half hour with another creative writer of color that I'm really, really excited about.
So there are a lot of questions that people submitted. Among them, how do you use your work or plan to use it to push back one-sizeism in the entertainment industry, especially toward actresses?
One-sizeism? I tend to cast real people. I think in watching a lot of my productions, you'll see that. I really do. I literally tap into people that I know because one, in the past, I didn't have a choice, I was just like, hey, girl, I know you got a public health job, but can you be in there? Can you play this disgusting role of Jeremy Patty? Or, and so I don't think that there's an industry, I acknowledge that there's an industry standard of beauty, but it's not reflected in my own work. I tend to try to push up against what's considered classically beautiful and what's considered attractive by, Hollywood standards.
Another question is, what has your natural hair journey been like? Someone asked.
It's been rocky. It's been full of experiments. Thank you, girl. Thank you. You see all this kitchen in the back. I'm sorry. This all in the back. It's been a journey. I've had to grow to love my natural hair for sure. I think, when I was in high school, tried to hide it constantly, and because perms and presses were in, and my mom was always like, I would get you a perm or press, but your hair's too thin to do that. And I'd be like, Mom, what do you know? And I remember taking a stand and being like, Mom, I'm gonna get this perm. I'm 12 and you can't tell me anything. And she was like, you do not need to do it because your hair is gonna fall out. And I did it anyway, and my hair fell out. And my mom was like, that's what your bald-headed ass gets. But after that journey, and I cut off all my hair post-college, and that really, I feel like, changed my life for the better, just in terms of embracing who I was. And I felt like the weight that we put on our hair is just so, it's kind of ridiculous. And for me, it allowed me and afforded me a freedom and a newfound confidence. And, now I love my hair. It's been and I work with a great natural hairstylist. Shout out to Felicia Leatherwood, who does amazing styles with all lengths of hair, whether your hair is this long or, longer.
Can you talk about what it meant to be nominated for a Golden Globe?
It was absolutely surreal. I remember getting the call. It was like 5 in the morning, obviously, because the East Coast announces it first. And I remember getting a call at like 5:30 and just ignoring it because I was like, we'll wait. And then, my phone was blowing up, and, looked up the news and saw that I was nominated. And it was a bittersweet moment for me because I was like, it's just me. And it realized, just to know how many people work on the show and how many people put so much, blood, sweat, and tears. No blood, let's be real, but just sweat and tears into the project. But, it's just, I was talking to Melina about it, just like, I wish it were all of us. And she was just like, girl, it is all of us. You're the show. And that, in a sense, made me feel better about it. But it was just such an honor to just even be included among the company that I respect and admire so much.
And what was the experience like?
The experience, I felt very out of place. I was just looking in awe of everyone. I saw Denzel walk by, but I didn't talk to him. I know, right? I just did like one of those. But it was too late. But it was just it was a surreal experience in that, everyone was extremely inclusive and very supportive. I had so many people come up and tell me that they watched the show and they loved the show and to continue to keep doing what we're doing. And so it just made me want to do more.
So I was looking at ET Online that was talking about folks behind the stage, and you were there along with Tracy Ellis Ross, who won for Blackish.
Yes.
And like her, you talked about Planned Parenthood. Mm-hmm. This was a very political Golden Globe, right? You had Meryl Streep calling out the president-elect. I'm wondering your reaction in the audience when you were watching that, and then going backstage, and they quoted you as saying, talking about Planned Parenthood, they've done so much for our community, for women, for everybody. When I had questions in my adolescence, in my teenage years, when I had scares and issues, Planned Parenthood was the safest place to go, you said.
100% stand by that. I think I've done so much work in preventative care, and just the attack on Planned Parenthood is so bewildering, especially, you and I were discussing that, especially when, the Affordable Care Act is at stake, when Obamacare is at stake. And, when I was insurance-less, that's where I went, and when I felt like I couldn't talk to my mother about certain things, that's where I went. And the idea that it could be dismantled is just absurd to me. And so listening to Meryl speak up, I just feel like she's such a responsible artist, and she's someone that, I admire and I strive to be like, just in terms of speaking out. Entertainers in the past have been just relegated to the role of entertainment, and I feel like now there's too much at stake to kind of be silent on those things. And MLK, he said the day that we begin, our lives begin to end the day that we become silent about things that matter. And I feel like by that very definition, our president-elect is like killing us in a sense, because nothing he says matters. Go to his Twitter account, nothing he says matters in any way, shape, or form. And what he does talk about only concerns him and his best interest. And I feel like if we're only going to provoke a sort of change by speaking up, and there's just not any room to be coy because you want to capture a mass audience. I just have no interest in being silent about something that might offend others, because I don't want their support. I don't want bigots to watch my work. I don't need them to. And for that, I admire a lot of what she said, because she called so much out and called on us to kind of put our money where our mouths are.
So the day after the inauguration, all over the country, women are marching.
Yes.
In Washington, a massive march. You're in LA. Are you going to be going to the march?
Yeah, I'll be going in LA, joining a couple of writers in LA to do the same.
What about art as resistance? How you see that, and especially today we're sitting at a university on Martin Luther King Day. Where you see politics in your work, or do you even separate it from your daily life and what you write and what you're conveying?
I love to spark conversations. I remember in college being inspired by studying the Black Arts Movement and how that was a movement for social change, and in a very real and productive way, and I think now, more than ever, I think people are looking. One, we're looking for leaders, which is not, I wouldn't say lacking at all. I think there's such a strong community of leaders, especially online and even offline. But I think now people are looking to their favorite entertainers to say something and to guide them to an action point. And I think, for me, I'm looking for the same, and I'm looking for a community. And, I've been meeting with other community leaders just on the side to just figure out what it is that we can do and how we can influence change. And especially with these midterm elections, we're seeing now that is the closest, that's the closest time to actually affect any real change in terms of electing the officials that we want to elect, and to encourage people to go out and vote when it actually matters, because this man has control of the House and the Senate, and you're seeing things pass at an alarming rate in record time, and that's not going to change if you're not going to get out and go vote again. So, I mean, I think I don't ever want to be didactic in my own work, but we're always going to promote conversations, and especially now, we just feel like a lot of our storylines will address how we talk with our friends, amongst our friends. I think even I have a group chat with friends where we talk about, everything from pop culture to things that affect us from day to day. And one of the things that on a particular day affected me was the death of Alton Sterling. And we were all just talking about how there was another Black death, and how they were saying how they had to go to work and face their white coworkers and face the fact that they just didn't have the same, they weren't carrying the same burden. They weren't carrying the weight of just frustration, and they could live in this bubble of oblivion, of willful oblivion. And so we were just talking about our feelings and wishing that we could do something, and ended up starting a fund for his family. And that, for me, was just a tiny thing that we could do, that we could use our platform to do, and to show, like, hey, this is a small token. We can raise money for his kids, and so many people reached out, so many people helped that we ended up raising like over $700,000 for his kids. And I think people are just looking for actionable steps. I think people are ready and willing to help. They just want to know how, and they want to know the answers. And a lot of that work is just being done through social media.
As you go to bigger stages, do you feel more constrained about what you can do, like from when you were doing Awkward Black Girl to doing Insecure, for example? Are things you can't do that you could do first?
Because of this specific
expressing
platform?
Things.
Well, I used to talk a lot of shit, and that's the only thing that I feel like I've held back on. I kind of don't want to anymore. I'm way more careful with my words, but that just comes from getting older and but hopefully wiser, and just being careful about what I choose to speak up about. But other than that, no, I feel like I have more opportunities to say things. I just want to say the right things. That's it.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel you have a larger stage to speak out, but in your art, in the Insecure, have you gotten into situations where they say, we don't want you to go there?
Absolutely not, no. I think if anything, they encourage it. And that's what I love about that particular, I've always wanted to be on a network like HBO, and HBO itself, just because they are very raw and they're very authentic. They support authenticity in a way that kind of mirrors the internet. I think nothing will ever top being able to just create something from scratch, put it out, and have instant feedback. Nothing will top that. And if anything, that's the biggest thing separating, creating work online and creating work for a network is just the time. But other than that, I feel like I have full creative freedom to broach any subject.
Who have you been most inspired by?
Ava DuVernay, Shonda Rhimes, Mara Brock Akil, Gina Prince Bythewood, Debbie Allen. I just have so many black women inspire me. Like I really do just daily find new women to be awestruck by and inspired by. And they just mean so much to me. I like to model myself and my career based off of, obviously women who I look up to and who constantly challenge obstacles and who do the unthinkable and who do the unexpected. And, I consider myself an impulsive person, and so inspiration for me comes, in doses everywhere.
Ava DuVernay just did this amazing documentary, 13th.
Yes.
Which is up for an Oscar. And of course, the hashtag Oscars So White was coined when she wasn't nominated as director of Selma, even though the film was for the film Selma. What it means to have those women and the openings and what you're trying to do now. I mean, you're talking here, it's not quite to the next generation, you're just beyond 30. But what you say to people here who are experimenting, who are trying to find their way and express themselves?
To look well, then look next to you and look for people who you feel like are as passionate as you are, who think the way that you do, who don't think the way that you do, who are better at things where you find yourself weak, and work with those people, collaborate with those people.
It fits with this question that someone asked: how can young black women learn more about creating positive media content as opposed to just consuming what's projected?
Ooh. There's too many positive examples around me. I think that's what spurred me into action, is just watching, being in college. I think, I want to say Flavor of Love was super popular. Either Flavor of Love or I Love New York. And I remember seeing those women and those images on screen and just being so irritated by the representation, and knowing that this was being seen potentially worldwide, and not having alternative images of black women on television. So I was like, this is the only image that people are seeing of black women, and it is, I was watching an episode about one contestant who, I talk about this all the time, who defecated on the floor because she was, she had to use the restroom, and these producers, these manipulative reality show producers in some cases were just like, no, just hold it. We're about to do whatever his equivalent of the rose giving ceremony was. I think he gives them clocks. And they were like, just hold it. And so she held it for as long as she could, and then she ended up pooing on the floor on this television show, and they aired it, and then she still stayed. He didn't eliminate her, and it was just like it was the most disgusting image, and I felt bad for her, because I was like, this is the only means that she feels like she can, promote herself, and it's humiliating, but what else is out there? And so for me, I felt like I had to create what I wanted to see at the end of the day. And another thing is that I didn't know any women in my circle who were constantly fighting, and like we see in these shows. So many of the women in my social circles were supportive and are supportive and are amazing and are ambitious and do so much. And that's what I wanted to see reflected. And so my advice is to just look into your circle and project what's real to you. And that's the most authentic and truthful type of work you can put out there.
What is your process of writing? How do you most focus?
I need to leave the house. If I stay home, I'll start, organizing my iTunes library, folding scarves. So I need to leave, and I try not to force it. I will go out and people watch. If I have a writer's block, I will go and try to have an adventure. I like to put myself in uncomfortable situations, because I feel like that's where a lot of my ideas come from. I feel like that's where I thrive, and then I'll let an idea sort of marinate, and then just sit down and isolate myself to write it.
Your next project?
My next project, I have a lot of different projects that I'm working on. I'm writing a film. I'm writing, I guess more things that I can't talk about. But I'm collaborating, as mentioned, with other writer producers. But I just want to explore every medium that I can, and that's what I'm doing. I have the luxury of being able to do that.
Well, since we have to wrap up on this Martin Luther King Day, your message to people here and to people who are watching on the live stream, to young women, to young men, to older folks, about expressing yourself, finding your place in the world, and what you want to accomplish now?
For me, I just want to. I want to continue being authentic. I want to come from a place of truth always. I want to make a difference in a way that's, long lasting and that is impactful. When I think about who has influenced me in my youth and who I've been able to look to as examples, I want to be able to do the same thing, just via art. And my appreciation for artists who have, extended beyond their specific medium to help the masses and to really enforce a greater change. Just that's what appeals to me the most, and I'm trying to find my way of doing that. And it's a journey, but I just really feel now more than ever dedicated to doing that.
What effect did the first African American family and the White House have on you for the past 8 years, and then where you see us headed now?
Obviously I remember exactly where I was. I was still struggling in New York when I saw this beautiful family take the stage and accept the first family presidency, however you say that. What is the proper noun for just the first family? To just see this man, exceed all expectations was incredibly inspiring. And I think I was just talking about this with a musician who was saying that he feels like his work, because he doesn't necessarily do the same type of music that's currently popular. Like trap music currently is like pop music to a degree, and he likes to have sort of a message in his work and talk about things that matter to him. And he was like, that kind of stuff isn't really popular anymore. And I had a theory that because I feel like this presidency has encouraged Black people to flourish. Like, we can do so much, and it's encouraged art, it's encouraged politics, it's encouraged just so many facets of life. And I do feel like there's been a celebration period to a degree, but at the same time, there've just been so many other issues that have kind of been swept under the rug that we've ignored. There's been a rise of hate as a result of this presidency that we've seen bubble up, and is the current cause, I would say, of this incoming presidency. And that is just heartbreaking to know that, I saw someone say that the man who was, the first Black president is being replaced by a man who's been endorsed by the KKK, basically. And so to know that we're entering a time of almost normalized hate is so scary to me. And I can only hope, which is the message of this outgoing president, that we can band together and we can block and figure this out in the best way possible. And again, I want to make that happen through my own work, but I know that it's going to take more than that.
Issa Rae, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. And thank you, Amy.